Welcome back to another part of the engine build series, and today we're travelling down to Birmingham to meet a guy called Paul Jeffries, and this guy is the guy that's building the engine and delivering a few bits. We're going to talk through a couple of engine specs and I'm going to show you exactly what we'll be doing with this car. So you're probably wondering why, Tom, after all these years, are you putting a new engine in this Mini? There's nothing wrong with the old one. There's nothing mechanically wrong with the old one, but it is lacking a few things. It needs a bit more punch, a bit more horsepower, a bit more scream, and come on, let's face it, who doesn't love a set of straight cut gears? So that is why, in this series, this engine is getting swapped in this Mini.
Time for the engine specs. First of all, we have an MED alloy timing chain plate and cover. Mini Sport 1.3 roller rockers, MAR 1380 pistons, and of course an AC Dodd RS Plus cam for that lovely lumpy idle. MJA Motorsport big valves, double valve springs and bronze valve guides, with of course a 10-5-1 compression ratio. Moving on to the gearbox, it started out life as a DAM 5626A Plus setup, and we're overhauling it with some style. It begins with an MED ST 1.5 light and flywheel, Tran X 6-piece straight cut gears with a close ratio gear set, helical transfer gears, there's reasoning for this which I'll explain later, central oil pickup pipe, a mini spares X-pin diff, topping it all off with a 3:1 ratio final drive. So as Paul begins to work his magic, it was time for me to watch a sequence of which components go together. If it was me building this engine, the Haynes manual would be out and I'd still be no further on in a couple of weeks. But as Paul cracked on, there was no sight of an instruction manual, just knowledge and memory to assist him along the way. It's oddly satisfying watching an engine come together piece by piece, and if you're a car nut, I'm sure you'll agree. The first thing you're about to witness is the installation of the piston rings and then of course the pistons being pushed into the block. If you're wondering, the conrods were fitted to the pistons by an external company, just for ease. Using a piston ring guide should allow the piston to drop into the block with the lightest of pushes. However, they sometimes need the slightest bit of persuasion. After a quick glimpse of the sexy light and flywheel, it was time to torque up the conrod bolts. Once they were torqued up, we moved on to unboxing the AC Dodd RS Plus cam. After this is installed, it's gasket time. When fitting the gasket, it's best to add some gasket sealant also, because let's face it, Minis are renowned for oil leaks. At this point, we fitted the timing chain to get everything clocked up.
And come to think of it, I genuinely cannot wait to swap the engine in this car. We'll be going from a 998 to a 1380 for those of you who've just joined this series. And we're hoping to basically double the horsepower. I don't think we're going to get into treble numbers, but we're still going to feel a massive increase. Paul seems to think we're going to be doing between 85 and 90 horsepower and potentially 90 foot-pound of torque, so matching the two. But in a car that weighs 600 kilos, this is going to feel like an absolute pocket rocket. And all that's left to do now is to basically get this engine out, get the new one up, get it swapped, get it on a rolling road, and then enjoy it in the summer months.
So as Paul set up his measuring dial and engine timing rig, we were about to see exactly how this engine is behaving, and it wasn't all as expected.
So after Paul had fully assembled the engine, we realised that the timing was slightly out, and it was out by 6 degrees. Now there is certain parts you can buy to knock the timing back, but it wasn't just enough to do it. It was either 2 degrees out or 2 degrees lower, and we just couldn't get it right. So what we decided to do after this video was filmed was go with a vernier timing chain made by MED. And this is something that goes on the engine, and you can basically tweak and tune the timing to get it absolutely perfect to make sure you're squeezing every ounce of power out of this little gem.
Do you know, the irony is, if it wasn't for YouTube and me starting this channel, then I probably wouldn't know Paul and many others. That's the insane thing about the internet. You put yourself out there, gain a bunch of people with common interests who are willing to help out just because they share the same passion. Without these videos, there's many people I wouldn't know. However, the people I've met along the way, I'm more than lucky enough to call them friends.
You're probably wondering, what am I going to do about the fuel intake and the air intake on this car? Am I going to run a single carburettor? Am I going to run twins? Am I going to run a Weber? Well, for the people that follow me on Instagram, and you can follow it below, you'll know exactly what I'm doing, but that's all about to be revealed in the next episode, so I hope you join me for that, because it's quite therapeutic, and it's basically the male version of Lego. It's a proper Meccano set, and it's grown-ups Lego, so I hope you join me in the next one for that. So we're out the garage. I've took the car for a last spin with a 998 engine in, and I've took a few shots, and we're going to compare the difference once the 1380's in. And I'm just going to apologise for the reflection off this roof because it is absolutely gleaming. I found a little rust spot the other day. I gave it to my friend John to rectify, and the paint is just like glass. I wish I knew him at the time I was getting the car sprayed during the build. Once the budget fits and once I've saved a bit of money, I probably will give him the rest of the car to respray, because there is bits of rust coming through already because I was ripped off and a bad job was done. Speaking of bad work, a friend of mine called Luke has got a Mini that is his pride and joy. He bought it, it was a bit shabby to start with, but he gave it to someone who said they would complete the work and rectify it and give it back in a better state. That's not happened. He's been given the car back twisted, the doors don't close, and it's just been done really poorly. So what we've done as a group of friends is set up a GoFundMe page where we hope to raise enough money to buy another floor for the car, and my friend Tony Aylott is going to fit the floor for free just to get Luke's car back on the road. So all the links will be in the description for that. But moving on to good things, I hope you stick with this build, I hope you stick with the engine series, and in the meantime, make sure you do everything in style, and I'll see you in the next one.